I just want to talk about this Trump trial. I'm sure, people have been talking about it all week. Obviously, Donald Trump on trial in a criminal trial in New York. Their jury selection is going on. They've just actually finished the jury. They may have opening arguments as early as Monday, possibly, which was kind of surprising because it's, hard to find a good jury in New York, a fair jury in New York. They keep asking the people who come in, do you have any previous opinion about the defendant? If they could find somebody, the only person you could find without a previous opinion about Donald Trump would be like one of those tube guys they have outside of used car lots. That was like, I have no opinion. I just wave in the wind back and forth. But here's the thing. I don't want to talk about what's actually happening in the courtroom too much. I want to just talk about the fact that it is impossible for an innocent person to walk into this courtroom and not in some sense become corrupt, because it's happening out of the context. Everything goes down the memory hole. Nobody remembers how we got to where we are at any given moment. All of our information is untrustworthy. So you're just walking into a thing which is a trial. So here's how I just picked this out at random. Here is an ABC News report about the trial. Let's cut to.
For the first time ever, a criminal trial involving a former president. Donald Trump arriving at court facing 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to cover up an alleged hush money payment to Stormy Daniels to hide their alleged affair from voters before the 2016 election. Trump in the courtroom today as the first 96 potential jurors filed in, the judge asking them if they could be fair and impartial. And with Donald Trump right there watching, more than half of them raising their hands to say they could not be impartial.
So just if you listen to this, right, this is a little bit of structural stuff because what I do for a living is write. I pay attention to the way words are used. You heard a lot of big words in there, words with a lot of emotional impact. So it's historic. It's a historic trial. It is a historic trial. No one has ever sunk so low as the Democrats to charge a former president, for one thing, and the lead candidate for president of one major party. So no one sunk that low. So it's historic. It's like they should say it's an historic low, but it's true. It's historic. And then you hear things like hush money. That's a big thing. You pay somebody hush money, and then it's an affair. So there's a sex angle, and those are the things that hit you. You can't help it. It's the hush money. Now, is it hush money to pay somebody, to say, sign an NDA and I'll give you money? Yeah, it's hush money. So it's not dishonest, right? It's not dishonest, but it is corrupt. Why is it corrupt? Now, well, let me show you the effect, right? So here's a woman who came in to be chosen as a juror. Her name is Kara McGee. And she was turned down just simply because she didn't have time in her life to be on the jury. And sometimes they'll let you off of that because it means you'll be distracted, and it was her job. And I have to tell you, I spent years living in New York. I lived in New York for at least 10 years. I could have known this woman. She's a nice, probably liberal, young, smart, interested in her work, her life. She's probably a nice, moral person. I know there are some people who think, oh, you can't be nice and be on the left, but that's just not true. Plenty of lovely, lovely people on the left, and she's probably one of them. I'm just guessing. I don't know her, but I'm just saying, just looking at her, I've known a lot of girls like that when I lived in New York. So let's hear what she has to say about the jury selection. Cut 3.
It's very difficult for anyone really in this country to not come to this with prior opinions. I think we all have prior opinions about the defendant, unless you've been living in a cardboard box since 2014. But personally, the right to a fair trial in this country is more important to me than anything this particular defendant has done or any feelings about him that I personally have.
Now, let's take her on face value, because I think she's probably telling the truth. If she really cares about a fair trial and wants to give even the horrible Donald Trump, which I'm guessing, but that's what she's thinking, she wants to give even him a fair trial. And there are protesters outside with signs that say no one is above the law. And I assume you agree with that, and I certainly agree with that. No one is above the law. But none of that applies to this situation. You want him to have a fair trial, but he can't have a fair trial because of the way he was charged. You say no one is above the law, but is that the situation that we're in? So here's this nice lady. I'm sure you'd like her if you knew her. She's walking in there. She doesn't want to become a corrupt person, but in a way, that's what happens, because if she plays by the rules, she is walking into systemic corruption. Alvin Bragg, 3 years ago, Alvin Bragg's campaigning to replace Cyrus Vance Jr., who had been investigating Trump. And he had gone after one of Trump's charities, and it was in the middle of investigating, but then he said, I'm retiring, I'm getting out. And Bragg had already had a history. He helped oversee a lawsuit against one of Trump's charitable foundations. So it was Cyrus Vance went after him, one of Trump's organizations, for tax evasion. And then Bragg went after a charitable foundation over allegations that Trump used the nonprofit to further his political and business interests. A vague thing. But so he's on Radio Hot 97. And he gets asked the question. This is the DJ. He says, I know a lot of people are wondering, whoever gets this job, the DA, and Bragg was running against Republicans, so he was virtually unopposed in New York. Whoever has this job, are they going to convict Donald Trump? And Bragg said that is the number one issue. So his number one issue was, would he be able to convict Donald Trump, who wasn't at that time charged with anything? And here's a brief part of that interview.
I'm the candidate in the race who has the experience with Donald Trump. I was the chief deputy in the attorney general's office. We sued the Trump administration over 100 times for the Muslim travel ban, for family separation at the border, for shenanigans with the census. So I know how to litigate with him. I also led the team that did the Trump Foundation case. So I'm ready to go wherever the facts take me and to inherit that case. And I think, it'd be hard to argue with the fact that that'd be the most important, most high profile case. And I've seen him up front and seen the lawlessness that he can do.
So he's convicting him on air. He's not running for mayor. He's running for DA. He's convicting him on air of things he's not charged with. The things that he sued him over, the Muslim ban, there was no Muslim ban. That he sued him over shenanigans at the border. What was the shenanigans at the border? He's trying to shut down the border. So he's just his nemesis, right? He's funded by guess who? George Soros. One of the big things they kept running in the papers, Alvin Bragg's not funded by George Soros. Not true. Soros funneled money to him through an organization called Color of Change, and then endorsed him. So he was getting Soros money. When he got in, he issued memos saying we're not going to charge. He says armed robberies, this is his memo, armed robberies who use guns or other deadly weapons to stick up stores and other businesses will be prosecuted only for petty larceny, a misdemeanor, provided no victims were seriously injured and there's no genuine risk of physical harm to anyone. So I walk in with a gun, but I don't steal enough to make it grand larceny, then it's just going to be a misdemeanor, even though you have been traumatized by having a gun stick in your face. So he was breaking down all these felonies to misdemeanors, letting people go free. He wasn't convicting. I think it was some huge number, like 40% of accusations he wasn't doing. But he goes after Donald Trump. What does he accuse Donald Trump of doing? Okay. First, by the way, he says, the Stormy Daniels case, he says, I can't prosecute it. And then he gets heat from the left. He gets heat from the left. And Biden is making comments that he wants Trump prosecuted. So he's under a lot of pressure. He ends up prosecuting Trump. Now, remember all those big words, right? The big words like hush money and affair. Those are historic. Those are the things that everybody's thinking about. Donald Trump had an affair, or was accused of having an affair. I don't think he's ever copped to it, with this porn actress, Stormy Daniels, calls herself Stormy Daniels. 10 years before 2016, he starts running for money. She says, if you don't want me to talk about the affair, you have to pay me. So he has his lawyer, Michael Cohen, make a payment of like $130,000, and he puts it down as a legal expense. So the accusation is that it was not a legal expense, that he should have written hush money, I guess, on the check, but he wrote legal expense. Now, the statute of limitations on that crime, which is a misdemeanor, if it's true, that has run out. So that's not the crime. The statute has run out. Now, just to put it in context, same election, Hillary Clinton secretly paid for the phony Steele dossier that accused Trump of Russian collusion and being with prostitutes and all that stuff, and used a lawyer to funnel the money while misreporting that as legal expenses. And she used a lawyer to get that out into the public and to the FBI, right? And she was fined for that. She paid a fine for that, $113,000. She paid a fine. She wasn't put on criminal trial. So Bragg originally said we can't prosecute it. Then the left got angry. And under that pressure, he then says, well, it's a felony. It's not a misdemeanor. It's a felony because he changed the thing to hide the fact that to hide a crime. And the crime is some kind of election crime that he does not name. He does not name what crime Trump was hiding. If it's a federal crime, he has no jurisdiction over it. It seems to be a federal crime that he's accusing him of hiding, some kind of election crime. Now, the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution says this: you have the right to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation. So Trump is being charged with what would be a misdemeanor if he weren't hiding a crime, but he's hiding a crime, but he doesn't know what crime he was hiding. That's the charge. That is the charge. Now, just today, there was a little clip in the Wall Street Journal from Slate of a guy saying, well, I thought this case was a sham, a left-winger saying, I thought this case was a sham, but it's the only case we've got, so we've got to do it. The judge, Juan Merchan, his daughter is a Democrat, works with Democrats on our online campaigns. He's contributed to Democrats. But never mind all that. You have a right to be a judge and a Democrat at the same time. But by his fruits, we should know him. He's not granting Trump any kind of leeway to campaign, any kind of leeway to go to his son's graduation. So this could have been prosecuted in December after the election. They purposely scheduled to keep Trump from campaigning. But instead, Trump is being taken out of the campaign for the flimsiest indictments that would ever been brought against anyone. No one but him would have been charged with this. So you go in there as an innocent juror thinking no one is above the law and I want him to have a fair trial. But how is this fair? How is it fair? Hillary Clinton did something far, far worse, obviously worse, and was fined for it, which was right. If Trump were fined for this, I would shrug it off. And this guy's going on trial, like facing prison, facing a conviction of some kind of real malfeasance. And we know everybody's not above the law because Hillary Clinton didn't treat this. He's not being treated fairly. So this juror trying to do the right thing, trying to treat everybody fairly, give them a fair, can't do it. The whole system is so corrupt. It is so corrupt. The Democrats have so corrupted our electoral system and now our court system that there's no way to bring a fair trial to this. The only way to bring a fair trial is to say, look, this never should have been brought. We're letting him go. But of course, you can't make that decision in a trial. So you are being brought into a corrupt system and you are going to act corruptly whether you want to or not. It's not the juror's fault. It's the Democrats' fault. The power is corrupt. Our elites are corrupt. Our court system has been corrupted. The Democrats have corrupted every single thing they've touched and then accused Trump of being corrupt. Now, the other thing about this is a little bit off topic, but I also have to bring this up. Trump has been a freaking amazing throughout this. He's charged with 90 things, the federal things, and he has just been hilarious, on point. The man is 77 years old. Joe Biden is shuffling around. He can't even walk anymore. He can't even make a sentence come out of his mouth so it makes any sense whatsoever. Here's Trump at a bodega, a New York bodega, on a break from the trial when he finally can get out. And he says, I have to campaign locally. So he goes to a bodega. Here's a cut of him.
How are you, everybody?
Hello,
nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. It's a great group.
Everything is screwed up in New York, and the whole world is watching. This judge is so conflicted. You understand that. You'll take a look at that. There's never been a judge so conflicted as this. It's ridiculous. And also, there's no crime. You know where the crime is? In the bodegas, where they come and rob them every week, or more than that.
More than.
The guy is on top of his game. It kind of is amazing. I mean, it really is. The other thing is, it's always fair to accuse Trump of hyperbole. He puts everything, this is the most important this and the most corrupt that and the most corrupt that. But he's right. They've put him in a position where the words coming out of his mouth are right, which really makes me think that this could blow up in their face big time, because there's simply no way, if anybody looks into this case at all, at what he's being charged at, where you cannot tell. First of all, I cannot believe if he gets convicted that it's going to hold up on appeal. And secondly, just people looking at this are going to say this man is being treated unfairly. And most people, in America, most people are pretty fair. They think like, well, the guy was mistreated. That might make them sympathetic to him. Now, meanwhile, while Trump is doing this, Biden is going out around talking about his relative. Well, just listen to this clip 6.
Ambrose Finnegan, when they called him Uncle Bozy, he was shot down. He was an Army Air Corps before there was an Air Force. He flew single-engine planes, reconnaissance flights over New Guinea. He had volunteered because someone couldn't make it. He got shot down in an area where there were a lot of cannibals in the beginning at the time. They never recovered his body, but the government went back when I went down there, and they checked and found parts of the plane and the like. And what I was thinking about when I was standing there was when Trump refused to go up to the memorial for veterans in Paris, and he said they're a bunch of suckers and losers.
Trump didn't go to the memorials, and my uncle was eaten by cannibals. Totally untrue story, completely bogus. The guy he was in the war, his plane crashed into the ocean. Nobody even knows why it crashed. He disappeared without a trace, but now he's been eaten by cannibals, which is a hit by Trump. I only throw that in there, first of all, because it's absolutely hilarious. Second of all, because you remember how the Washington Post kept a running, was it the Post? I think it was the Post. It kept a running count of Trump's lies. So if Trump said nice day and it was cloudy, that was a lie, and they wound up with like 13,000 lies or something like this. But it's a little bit of exaggeration. He's a tale teller, or the New York Times called the tale teller in chief. He's he's not even there anymore. You know, like you hardly even can blame him. I sit and watch him and go, all right, Uncle Bozy was eaten by cannibals. Just sit down and we'll bring you some porridge. Unbelievable, unbelievable. So that's the memory hole in Biden's head. But the memory hole here is how this case came to be, what this case is. So all you are left with, if you're watching TV, you're an ordinary citizen, you're not reading everything that comes out, you're watching TV to catch up on the news so you can go about your business. All you know is historic hush money affair. You know, sex, hush money, dirt, it's historic. That's all you know. And you have this memory hole. And the context is the entire thing is corrupt. And that's one of the serious problems we're facing right this minute, is this, in this emergency of this crisis of information, the fact that we have no memory, so we do not know what's going on at any given moment. If you love that, and I know you did, like and subscribe. And don't forget to subscribe to The Andrew Klavan Show wherever you get your podcasts.